Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa, Rudika Charja, Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Rudika Charja, Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this third day of February 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. Text 25 at the bottom of page 404. Hey. That was uncalled for. I'm going to wait until she's ready. We need the whole chorus as much as we can muster. You got it? Okay. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti bhutri vrata bhutan yanti bhuteja yanti munyajinopi mam yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti bhutri vrata Bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajinopi mam yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitri vrata Bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajinopi mam Yanti deva vrata devan Pitrin yanti pitrivritaha. Bhutan yanti bhuteja. Yanti mudnyajinopi mam. Yanti deva vrata devan. Pitrin yanti pitrivritaha. Bhutanti yanti bhuteja. Yanti madhyajinopi mam. Yanti deva vrata devan. Pitrin yanti pitrivrataha. Bhutanti yanti bhuteja. Yanti madhyajinopi mam. Okay, I'll read through the word by words. Yanti, go. Deva vrataha, worshippers of demigods. Devan, to the demigods. Pitrin, to the ancestors. Yanti, go. Pitri vrataha, worshippers of ancestors. Bhutani, to the ghosts and spirits. Yanti, go. Bhuta idyaha, worshippers of ghosts and spirits. Yanti, go. Mat, my, yajinaha, devotees, api, but, mam, unto me. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Purport. If one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Darsha Purnamasi. These are vividly described in the fruit of activities portion of the Vedas, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pita planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pishacha. Pishacha worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planets of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pitas achieve the Pita planets, or by practicing the black arts achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live. Excuse me. And because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahmajyoti. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society, to the effect that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Page 405. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is kind of a summary of the previous verses, where Krishna is contrasting the worship of demigods, or even he says here, bhutas or pretas, the ghosts and spirits and rakshas and whoever you want to worship, you can. And himself. We are making a destination, our destiny with every day. Everything we do in this lifetime is forming we're buying our ticket to our next body, our next destination. And that is a very important understanding. How can we get to the best place? Even in this lifetime, we try to arrange things so that we'll have the best place to live, and maybe if we can earn some more money, we can move to a better neighborhood or something like that. We're always thinking of how we can do better, And most people don't plan on doing worse. But it's completely fruitless, because on this plane, no matter what you do to improve your position, it's very temporary, and it's always fraught with danger, with being completely overturned and changed, and you really don't know what's going to happen, especially in this age of Kali. But still, the truth holds that we have some freedom to choose what to do with our senses and our mind in order to create a certain consciousness that will produce the best future. The idea of transmigration of the soul, the idea that the soul is eternal, that we've been through countless situations in the past, and this has brought us to the present situation, and that as human beings, we can use our God-given intelligence to direct our activities in such a way to achieve the best goal possible. So that's kind of a given here, and by the time we get to chapter 9, but this whole chapter, we're almost finished with it now, is, as Krishna says at the beginning, the most confidential knowledge. This is the kind of an essential chapter here in the Bhagavad Gita. And as he mentioned in the beginning, it's the king of knowledge, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya, most secret, most purifying. By practicing this Krishna consciousness, you can directly experience the result. It's not something theoretical that, okay, when I die, I hope, I get it. Right now, if you practice properly and fix your mind on Krishna, then you can experience the benefits, and your faith will increase. So he's spoken about many things. He's given a very nice lesson in the fruitlessness of worshiping the demigods. This is one of the advantages that we have outside the Vedic culture, because it's very possible to be brought up within the Vedic culture in India and be taught as your grandmother and your grandfather worship before you, to worship this god, and this tradition, that tradition. And really, historically, in the history of this Krishna consciousness movement, Srila Prabhupada tried like anything to make it work in India. I mean, his spiritual master basically told him to preach in English, which he was doing in India. He started the Back to Godhead magazine. It was just like 4 pages newsprint, but he was publishing it with great effort. He'd already, for quite a while in India, Prabhupada was practically poverty-stricken. He really didn't have a lot of funds. He would take that, it would be either, eat breakfast or print the Back to Godhead magazine. And he always chose the Back to Godhead magazine. And he would go out and hawk them, make a few rupees, and in this way he would live. He was living in Vrindavan for a while, and he would commute to Delhi to print, and like that. But for a while he had an institution called the League of Devotees in Jhansi. He was given a lease on a building. He wasn't ever given a building, but he had this facility. And I often think we're lucky it didn't work out, because he could have, done his whole program in India. But Krishna had other plans for him, and it failed, But he was determined to give this knowledge. But in India, people already figured they knew everything. They knew Krishna, they knew Bhagavad Gita, they knew Harekrishna. Prabhupada, I listened to lectures all the time, and he said when he was in India, he was trying to get followers, get serious followers who were full-time. And so he would approach prominent men, who had several sons, and he said, just let me have one son, I'll train him up as a Brahmin, as a preacher. Nobody said yes. No, he couldn't get anyone to agree. They said, no, what good is this? We have to get their engineering degree. And like, so he had to, like in football, when I was a kid, we used to watch it. Hail Mary pass, It's a Hail Mary. So usually near the end of the game, you're down by 5 points or something, and so you just throw a long pass toward the end zone and hope that your guy catches it. It's a toss-up. Sometimes it works, mostly it doesn't. So Prabhupada's coming to America is kind of like a transcendental Hail Mary. It's like, what do they say? Do or die, make it or break it. You know what I mean? And so he had nothing to lose. He figured, well, if I die trying, I'm still following the order of the spiritual master. It's in Krishna's hands. In fact, when he came, and he wrote 2 very important poems, one on the Jaladuta, and one just after he landed. He landed in Boston first, in mid-September, I forget the exact date.
1965. And the one that he wrote when he came in, he saw the Boston skyline and he got his feel, a little feel of the tenor of American city, big city. And he said, somehow or other you brought me here, Krishna, so you must have a mission. So it's up to you, please make my speaking power such that it will impress them somehow, I mean, it was an alien culture, he had no money, I was just hearing today that some recordings of Prabhupada before 26 2nd Avenue. This is early 1966. He was at an ashram. Dr. Mishra had this established yoga place. He had an ashram outside the city. People would go, And so there's, I don't know if there's more than one, but there's at least one very nice recording of him giving a class on the basic verse 213, Dehi nosmenyata dehe, the soul goes through different bodies and then it gets another body at death, basic transmigration. But, Prabhupada is it's the same kind of mood he had when he was preaching to thousands when he went to India. He's just giving his all. He's giving everything. So the idea is that this, basic knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is essential for every human being if you want to be successful in the mission of human life. I mean, Maya is her thankless task is to trick us into thinking that what is really insignificant and just illusory is the most important thing, and that's what we should focus on. And what is the most important, the addictions of the soul and God and relationship, is just somebody's irrelevant idea. I got so much going on. I have to, In other words, she deludes us into thinking that which is insignificant and delusionally is the most important thing, and that which is the most important thing is just an illusion. And so Srila Prabhupada came to overturn that, to create a revolution, and really try to find somebody who was willing to put some energy and some focus and some attention in the most important thing that we can, which is, as the Vedanta Sutra says, this one we should know by heart. It's only 3 syllables. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. I'm sorry, 8 syllables. So why don't we learn it? We'll learn it tonight, okay? You know it already. So the first there's like there's 4 words. Atha and Atta. A-T-H-A means therefore, I think. I'll look it up. And Atta, A-T-A, without the H. Sanskrit is very scientific language. Every little sound counts. Therefore, now. Now, therefore, okay. Brahma, the absolute truth. Prabhupada would translate, the absolute reality. Jigyasa, you should be curious. You should inquire into the absolute truth, which means, by contrast, all of these relative truths, the phantasmagoria of the material world, try to find what's behind it. Where did everything come from? That's fine. So I'll say, you say, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Brahma Jigyasa. Yeah, that's J-I-J, N with one of those curly Q's over it. A, long A, asa. Jigyasa means inquire. Yeah, jigyasa. All right, we learned something tonight. It's good. This is what divides human life from animal life. Everybody's curious. Prabhupada says this is a question and answers. This comes up in the Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, so you'll find a lot of the same themes and see some of the same language. The next, number 2 sutra out of hundreds, is defining what is that Brahman. Okay, you want me to inquire to Brahman, what is it? So he gives another 4-syllable one. Janma yasya yataha. Janma, is what? Like Janmashtami? Birth, exactly. Birth or creation. Everything has come into being that in our own experience. And indeed, it says the whole universe, the whole creation has come into being at a certain point. So what is the source of that? That's what Brahman is. What is it that creates what we experience? The uncreated creator, the uncaused cause, the cause of all causes. And then there's the word Adi. Adi means etc. In other words, Janma, creation, and what comes after it. What comes after it? We're in it right now. maintenance, right? Everything is created at some point, now it's been maintenance. And then destruction. So those three things, everything material goes through that. Janmad yasya. Yasya means, I think, this. Yeah, this creation. Where did this come from? And yataha, from whom or from which has everything been generated? Is everything being maintained? And will destroy and get merged into that thing. That's Brahman. Okay? Is it a person? Or is it just a force? Or is it just white light? Or what is it? We should be curious. We should want to know. In other words, Prabhupada says he has in its very first purport in the whole Bhagavatam, the 111, which begins with these words, Janmadhyasya. The first verse of the whole Bhagavatam, 111, begins with the second sutra of the Brahma Sutras. Because it's defining what that Brahman is. You know, the Vedanta Sutra ultimately comes to that point, but it's defined in every, at the very beginning from the Bhagavatam, which is the natural commentary. Janmadhyasya yaton bayada tatatascha vigyada. It's a big long verse describing Krishna, describing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who knows everything, who enlightened Brahma in the heart, who created all of this material energy, which is very bewildering, and is always in his spiritual abode. He's never disturbed. He's always enjoying it. It's all in that first verse. In other words, it's Krishna. The first words are Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Right away, Vasudeva is Krishna, right? So that's that question must arise in our hearts, to make advancement. And then when we approach the right source of knowledge to answer that question, then everything proceeds from that. Now, we didn't know all that. I mean, Prabhupada had to come and tell us. So he was telling us the right questions and giving us the answer to the question also. Haribol, nice to see you. So anyway, this 9th chapter. Now, here, this is, this word vrata. Now, you notice the word vrata, yanti deva vrata. Now, vrata usually means a vow, It means drida vrata. Drida vrata means a firm vow. We had that word at the end of chapter 7, where he's just saying, well, who can actually have a firm vow and seriously practice Krishna consciousness? Yesham tvandakatam papam jananam punyakamna te dvandamohi nirmukta bhajante mam drida vrata. I will explain in a minute. We're on page 404 at the bottom, 4 and 405. So he's saying that those who are sinless, given up sinful activities and simply practicing pious activities, bhakti activities, jananam punya karmanam, pious activities, te dvandva mohani maktam, they're freed from the delusion of the dualities of this world, and they can practice bhakti with firm determination. So here, someone who has taken a vow to worship the gods, deva vrata, you go to the gods. Wherever your attention is focused and you're placing your hopes and your consciousness and you're filling it with thoughts of that thing, that's worship. We went through this yesterday. What is worship? Worship can also be worship of material things. Mammon, right? It's money. People worship money. They spend all day thinking of it. I was thinking, who has all the money, right? Oh, the big hedge fund managers, the billionaires, the multimillionaires. We all know the money's flowing up, right? We don't have any of it. So where's it going? Well, how do these guys get that way? Worship. They worship, right? They come out of college, and if they're lucky, they get a position in Wall Street. They got to work 80 hours a week, constantly filling their brain, manipulating the numbers. What's going on in Singapore? What's the market here? Invest here, sell there. That's their consciousness. That's a form of worship. And where are they going? Not a very good place. They may become rich, but it's a worship of mammon, and it's a worship of the material energy. You remember this verse? Did I share this last night? One of these lectures, maybe in the morning. From the 87th chapter of the 10th canto. It goes like this. Tvodanupatam kulai midamatma sarit priyavat chadatitaton maketvihi te priyatmanija. Nabadadamantaho asadupatna atma asadupasanayatma hano yadunushaya brahme urubaye kusharira brata. Sorry, I lost a few syllables there. So they're saying to Mahavishnu, that huge form who's lying in the ocean of the causal ocean, they're waking him up. He's going to open his eyes, and all of the living entities are going to come out and be injected into all of the universe. The creation is going to start up. Very dramatic. And so here's oh Lord, the human form of life is perfect for worshiping you. And when one is using his senses and mind and everything connecting to you, then the body becomes very dear and one's best friend. Because it's, imagine if your mind was so trained that it automatically went to Krishna. That's the whole point. It's like we're trying to become absorbed in Krishna thought, but there's so many other distractions and things, right? So that's sadhana. That's what chanting is. Bring the mind back and listen to the name, focus it on Krishna. That's what we're doing. But imagine if your mind was so nicely trained that it automatically thought of Krishna. You know, that's the Mahabhagavad. The mind is just attracted. So that's what he's describing there in the first couple of lines. Those who are perfectly worshiping you, then the body doesn't become a distraction or a burden. It becomes an object of sacred. It's sacred because it's paraphernalia for worshiping Krishna. It's your friend. Right? In the 6th chapter, Krishna says the mind can be your friend or your enemy. The mind absorbed in Maya is your enemy, but the mind absorbed in Krishna's thought is your friend. So that's the first two lines. But then the third line, it talks about another form of worship. It says, Nabadadamantaho asadupasanaya mahano. He says, those who unfortunately do not take their pleasure, find the transcendental pleasure in worshiping you, what do? They worship the impermanent. Asat upasanaya. Here Krishna is talking about different kinds of worship. He doesn't mention worshiping inanimate things. The asat. Asat is everything we're surrounded by, the dead matter. That's mammon worship. Upasana atmahano, which is virtual death for the soul. In other words, you can't kill the soul, but you can postpone you can bury yourself in matter. And what's the result? Then you're wandering through different species, different planets, trying to fulfill these unfulfillable desires for happiness in the material world, taking on kusharira. The syllable ku, prefix ku, means bad. There's Krishna Kata, which is just like nectar, and there's Kukata, which destroys your intelligence. You know, there's material sounds. Similarly, there's auspicious bodies, and there's Kusharira. Sharira means body, which means subhuman bodies or ignorant bodies, which bring great fear and suffering. This is the choice we have. So, but he used that phrase, asadupasanaya, means worshipping, upasanaya, the material, mammon. So here Krishna is saying, whatever you worship, you'll get to that. Now, Pitris, the forefathers, or the planet who determine where the forefathers go. There's a planet like that. You can go there. Bhutani, different ghosts and what does he say here? Ghosts and spirits. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people who try to contact the spirits of the dead and bring them. It's dark arts. Prabhupada says it's black magic, black arts. There's nothing spiritual about it. Though if you're in the mode of ignorance, this is attractive to you. There's a whole tantric thing in India you could get into. Controlling others, controlling their minds. Killing your enemy. We're not into that. That's not what we're into. But people who are into it, you'll go there. You can become there. And in yanti mad yajino pimam. Those who worship me, yajino. He used the word yanti yajino. Means worship or practice. Yeah. What does he say? Devotees. The devotees. Those who worship me come to me. So this is our choice. We have a choice. We have free will in the human form of life. Most people don't exercise it. They exercise it within the realm of matter. You see? Buying this car, that car, going to this restaurant, this one. That's a tragic misuse of the free choice. But we have this minute independence, and the key is which energy will we serve? Which we have to serve. We're going to be servants. The illusion is that we're masters, but we're not. We're servants. So we can choose with our good intelligence to serve Krishna's internal energy, meaning the the spiritual master, the holy name, which is to our benefit. It's auspicious. Otherwise, if we embrace the illusion of independence and we serve, what is that verse? It's so important. Kama dinam katina katita palita dunideshas. The word palita and dunidesha means my masters who are giving me orders. Kama, etc. What is etc.? It all begins with material desire. Kama, lust, anger, greed, illusion, these things. They get a place in our mind, and they give us orders. Go here, do this, spend this, Go after that one, reject that one, a million times. That's kamadinam. Katin palita durni deshas. This is a verse by Madhavendra Puri. He's observing now. He's introspecting. Oh, so many lifetimes I've served these bad masters. They've not shown me any mercy. And they're never satisfied with the service. They only want more service, But now my intelligence has awoken because I've heard the Bhagavad Gita. And so I'm rejecting these masters, But that's not all. That's not enough. Now I'm running to you. Now you please engage me in your service. So the verse goes like this. The Sanskrit is so beautiful. Kama dinam katina katita palita durnideshas tesham jata maina kaduna nattapano prashanti utsrijaitan hadiyatupate sampratam labna buddhis tvamayata kshadanamabayamam niyung svatmadasye. Nice meditation. So I put in a poem. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet I have gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. This is a prayer by Madhavendra Puri. It's included in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's teaching, Sanatana Goswami. What a great wealth. So this is what we're trying to do with this Bhagavad Gita class. This was Prabhupada's whole effort, to somehow engage the intelligence of a few fortunate souls to reconsider the whole basis of your life, and to come onto the auspicious path of Bhakti Yoga, which can lead you out of the morass and the maze of the material world and back home, back to Godhead, to the planet of Krishna. Madhyajinopi mam. They come, yanti, they come to me. So where is Krishna in the spiritual world? We've heard several verses already in the 8th chapter. Parastasmat bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana. He's describing the creation and the destruction of the material world. It becomes vyakta, means it's visible, and then avyakta, it's not visible anymore. But then he says, beyond this creation and destruction, there is another world that's also invisible to us now, but is never destroyed. That's my abode. One who comes there never comes back again. So that's every other place that you have, even Brahmaloka, right? Didn't we have that? Yes. No, that was in the 8th chapter. Even if you go to Brahmaloka, and you get a length of life inconceivable. Brahma lives 311 trillion years? Plus, the 40 billion is just like a rounding error. 311 trillion, 40 billion. But even if you live on that planet, as long as Brahma, eventually he dies, eventually you have to leave. And now you may go back to Godhead with him, but you may not. You may come down. That's why Krishna says, Brahma bhuvana loka punana bhartanojana. Even up to Brahma loka, it's a place of return. To return to this plane and return to birth and death. Brahma bhuvana punana bhartano mam upecha kunteya punarjanmana vijjate. But one who comes to me never comes back. So those who are intelligent will strive for that, to reach that platform, to actually complete our sojourn in the material world, which has been going on for countless years, and escape from all of this pain and suffering and fear. There's no more fear. And to be welcomed back into the spiritual world where we belong, for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. It's worth trying for. So that's what Krishna is giving us here in this verse and in this whole 9th chapter. And in the next verse, if there's no comments or questions, he describes how easy it is. Remember at the beginning he says susukam. Susukam means very happily performed. Happily performed must mean also easy, because it's very hard, it's not happy anymore. He says easily performed. So here he's giving the formula that anyone can do in text 26. Okay, here we go. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayanshati tadaham bhaktu paditam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. Now, before we read this next this purport, I just a note on my service. You know, I've been spending 45 years working on these books and various things. Now, as you may or may not know, this is the second edition of the Bhagavad Gita. The first edition was published originally in 1972, the unabridged Bhagavad Gita. And believe it or not, this whole first paragraph was missing in that 1972 version. And we're going to read it in a minute, you'll see how important it is. But somehow it was left out. This is the third Gita. There was one published in 1968 that was much abridged. I can bring it some night just to show you the history. The Macmillan Company, we didn't have a publishing company. Probably sitting there in 26 Second Avenue. You know, he just a few followers. And so they had to have it printed by an established publisher. So by absolute miracle, sometime I'll tell the story. This major publisher named Macmillan agreed to publish it. It was the 60s, 67. You know, everyone was thinking about yoga in India, so there was a market. So okay, we'll publish it, but not this 1,000-page version. We'll publish a 300-page version. You know, practical. They weren't ready to invest in it, unabridged. So sadly, Prabhupada had to take out a lot of the purports. But in this purport, he had the complete purport we see here now, and including this first paragraph. But somehow, when the second one, the unabridged version was published in 72, this whole paragraph was missing. And so my senior teacher in editing, Jayadvaita Swami, saw that and restored it. So don't ever fall for this propaganda that, oh, this is the original Gita. You know, you'll be missing this paragraph and a whole lot of other things. And I can go into it one night for you if you're interested. So many anomalies in that first Gita. I mean, nobody knew anything. You know, you had one fellow typing. Most of it was done by where Prabhupada was dictating. You've seen, I don't know, some of the movie. You know, it speeded things up, but he's relying on the transcriber. This transcriber wasn't even a devotee. The guy walked into the 20. Nobody knew how to type. You know, well, Hayagriva knew how to type, but he was busy. And so this fellow walks in. He knocks on the door. You know, walks in. And he's on leave he's on university, and he's getting credit for working with one of the new religions. So he picked us. So they asked him, "Do you know how to type?" "Oh, yeah, I know how to type. I'm in college." "Here, listen to our guru." You ever hear Prabhupada speak? You know, the accent and all the Sanskrit he's quoting. What does this guy know? You know, the big blanks in the thing. And that's what they had to work with. So they left out a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, but I mean, it was great until 83 when it came up and we published a new one. Don't ever fall for that idea that here's the real Gita. You know, this is the 72 Gita as it was. This is as it is. All right, now let's read this whole paragraph, and you can see which Gita you prefer, the old one or the new one. Purport: for the intelligent person, it is essential to be in Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent, blissful abode for eternal happiness. The process of achieving such a marvelous result is very easy and can be attempted even by the poorest of the poor, without any kind of qualification. The only qualification required in this connection is to be a pure devotee of the Lord. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. The process is so easy that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness, because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method, and thus attain the highest perfectional life of eternally bliss and knowledge? Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone, because he is self-sufficient. And yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in an exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of life. Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti, or devotional service, is the only means to approach Krishna. No other condition, such as becoming a Brahmin, a learned scholar, a very rich man, or a great philosopher, can induce Krishna to accept some offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal, and I'll explain that after I read the rest of the purport. The process is eternal. It is direct action in service to the absolute whole. So isn't it worthwhile that that was restored, that whole paragraph? Can you imagine? Very important stuff. Let's go on. Here, Lord Krishna, having established that he is the only enjoyer, the primeval Lord, and the real object of all sacrificial offerings, reveals what types of sacrifices he desires to be offered. If one wishes to engage in devotional service to the Supreme in order to be purified and to reach the goal of life, the transcendental loving service of God, then one should find out what the Lord desires of him. One who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering anything which is undesirable or unasked for. Thus, meat, fish, and eggs should never be offered to Krishna. If he desired such things as offerings, he would have said so. Instead, he clearly requests that a leaf, fruit, flowers, and water be given to him. And he says of this offering, I will accept it. Therefore, we should understand that he will not accept meat, fish, and eggs. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk, and water are the proper foods for human beings and are prescribed by Lord Krishna himself. Whatever else we eat cannot be offered to him, since he will not accept it. Thus, we cannot be acting on the level of loving devotion if we offer such foods. In the 3rd chapter, verse 13, Sri Krishna explains that only the remains of sacrifice are purified and fit for consumption by those who are seeking advancement in life and release from the clutches of the material entanglement. Those who do not make an offering of their food, he says in the same verse, are eating only sin. In other words, their every mouthful is simply deepening their involvement in the complexities of material nature. By preparing nice, simple vegetable dishes, offering them before the picture or deity of Lord Krishna, and bowing down and praying for him to accept such a humble offering, enable one to advance steadily in life, to purify the body, and to create fine brain tissues which will lead to clear thinking. Above all, the offering should be made with an attitude of love. Krishna has no need of food, since he already possesses everything that be, yet he will accept the offering of one who desires to please him in that way. The important element in preparation, in serving, and in offering is to act with love for Krishna. The impersonalist philosophers who wish to maintain that the absolute truth is without senses cannot comprehend this verse of the Bhagavad Gita. To them it is either a metaphor or a proof of the mundane character of Krishna, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. But in actuality, Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, has senses, and it is stated that his senses are interchangeable. In other words, one sense can perform the function of any other. This is what it means to say that Krishna is absolute. Lacking senses, he could hardly be considered full in all opulences. In the 7th chapter, Krishna has explained that he impregnates the living entities into material nature. This is done by his looking upon material nature, and so in this instance, Krishna's hearing the devotee's words of love and offering foodstuffs is wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. This point should be emphasized. Because of his absolute position, his hearing is wholly identical with his eating and tasting. Only the devotee who accepts Krishna as he describes himself, without interpretation, can understand that the Supreme Absolute Truth can eat food and enjoy it. So, important verse, basis of why did Prabhupada, because he had to choose which purports to put in. Many of them he had to take out, sadly. But this entire purport was there in the abridged Gita because that was one of the main activities they were doing, chanting and taking prasadam. You know, even today, that's the foundational practices of ISKCON. So that this process, you know, it's mystical and mysterious, cooking for God and then offering and then eating and being purified. But you can see how, on a very person-to-person level, this is a common way in which you establish a relationship. If you want to soften someone's heart, you know, and you cook what they like, you know, and you give it to them in a nice atmosphere and everything, it's part of the loving exchange. So that's Krishna agrees to that, right here in the Bhagavad Gita. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flute, a flower, or water, I will accept it. So Prabhupada makes the point in the first paragraph how it is open to everyone, and that he will continue that theme. And there's a very important verse coming up that it's completely universal. It doesn't matter your background, where you came from, your caste, consciousness, gender. It doesn't matter. It's just a question of your heart. If you sincerely want to establish this relationship, then you can learn from the devotees how to offer, the prayers and so forth. It's very simple. We used to put, in these big books we don't have it, but in the mass distribution books, there's a very nice essay that was written by Mahatma Prabhu, who used to be a main part of this temple back in the 80s. And it's called Krishna Consciousness at Home. And how to set up your altar, and simple instructions about how to offer food, and how to chant on beads. It's an illustration and everything, So people get the book if they're interested in trying it. They could be in the middle of nowhere, thousands of miles from a temple. Of course, nowadays you can get online and get so much instruction. But the whole idea is that it's completely ecumenical. Everybody, any part of the world, can begin Krishna consciousness with a little sincerity and intelligence and devotion. So this verse is much beloved. It's one of the main reasons why, the main reasons or main ways in which Krishna makes himself accessible. It says just, leaf, flower, fruit, water. You can get it anywhere. Now, of course, Prabhupada makes the point in other places that if you can make a nicer offering, then you need to do that. Learn how to cook, things, other things. And then there's the idea of distributing the prasadam. You offer a fruit or many fruits, and then you distribute them, then that's even better. You're distributing prasadam. That's one of our main functions here. So this is, throughout, all the writings and the practices, the idea of the universality of Krishna consciousness is stressed. And Prabhupada proved it. Why was it confined to India for so long? Because nobody really believed or had the, the wherewithal to leave India and spread Krishna consciousness. Even Lord Chaitanya, who predicted it would be in every town and village in the world, he never left India. He went all over India and spread it. But with the advent of, the airplanes, Prabhupada was dubbed the Paramahamsa on Lufthansa. Lufthansa is an airline. I don't know if you know the German name. That was a little pun. And no one ever did that. But that was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's genius. Whatever there is can be used in Krishna service because it's, if we can use computers, if we can use cars or airplanes or anything, the internet, we can do it. It's all to spread the same message. So this is a wonderful verse, and it's the basis of so much preaching, the Sunday feast, everything, it's based on this idea that we can offer food to Krishna with love and devotion, become spiritualized, and distribute it, and people become attracted. Any questions about this verse? Yes, Lauren. Okay, and I explained I mentioned I would explain it. Yeah. What Prabhupada is referring there is the idea, you may or may not have heard, there's the Shikshastika, Lord Chaitanya wrote, and there in the 4th verse, he starts showing us how to pray. First he describes what I'm not praying for. Na means not. Na danang, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam vajagadishikamaye, mama janmani janmani shire, bhavata bhaktir, ahoitiki tvahi. Ahoitiki bhakti keeps coming up. Hetu means a cause, means a material motivation. Why do people do things? Why do people go to church or a temple or whatever? To pray to God for something. Give us a day of daily bread, save my child is sick, whatever, whatever. So that's causal. It means there's a cause, there's a material cause or motivation. So bhakti is never causal. Real bhakti should not be mixed with any material motivation. And so that's the whole idea here, is that you prepare this offering. It can be very simple, but it's for Krishna's pleasure. You're not thinking, okay, I got to offer the fruit so I can then eat and take lunch. That's mixed up. You're offering it for Krishna's pleasure. That's your motivation. That's what he's referring to here. Real bhakti. See, because like anything else, something pure can be adulterated. This is mentioned even in the Bhagavatam, in the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev. He says there's bhakti in different modes. You know, it has the form of bhakti, but there's a material motivation, mode of passion. You know, it can be karma mishra. Mishra means mixed. It's very simple to remember that. Karma mishra bhakti. You know, yes, I'm chanting the holy name, but I'm praying, you know, please send me this, or I can, you know, something. That's not what we're all about, you know. It's very much stressed in the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion. This is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and that's kind of the foundational book of the why and the how and the goal of bhakti, of this line of devotional service. And so right near the beginning, he gives the foundational verse for the whole movement, and it's on this theme. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janavatam anukulena krishna anushilanam bhakti ruttama. Bhakti ruttama means pure bhakti. No, so he says, Anya abhilashita shunyam, devoid of all other motives. He doesn't use the word hetu or hoitiki, but it's the same idea. And void of anya abhilashita. An asha is a longing, is a very strong desire that you have over time. It's not just a passing fancy. So this is anya abhilashita shunyam, devoid of other motivations. Classified karma, jnana karma jnanavatam. Now, avrita means covered. In other words, bhakti, the pure beauty of bhakti, can be covered by these material motives. And they fall into three basic categories. Karma, jnana, well, he says karma, jnana, anadi, again, etc. But the karma is just gross desires, you know, sensual desires. And jnana means a desire for liberation, you know. That's also a material desire, ultimately. And then it can be desire for yogic siddhis or so many different things. That's a kind of a third category. All of those dilute and cover your pure motivation. So this is what it isn't. What is it? Anukulyena krishna anushilanam. Activities that are motivated wholly and solely by the desire to please Krishna. That's it. You know, to keep his motivation in mind. Now, this is kind of, what arises immediately in the mind is this, well, what about me? If it's only for Krishna, what about me? But that means we forget that we're part and parcel of Krishna. If we actually serve Krishna, make him happy, we automatically become happy because we're part and parcel of Krishna. So it's a loving relationship. When you're just doing things for Krishna's pleasure, then he's going to act for your pleasure. You know, he'll take away your material desires. He'll reveal more about himself, you know, and give you, you know, bhakti rasa. You know, which is itself the highest pleasure. That's why you find it's so important to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where you find examples of that. You know, Lord Chaitanya's devotees and everything, and what they're experiencing. That's really the foundation of this movement. Is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So anyway, that's the idea. It's not causal. Real bhakti, pure bhakti, he's talking about that, never has a material motivation. That's the mystery of that sentence. But I agree, it is pretty mysterious, but it requires explanation. Okay, so let's see. I'll give you one poem to wind up, since we're always ending up a little bit early. So let's see. Well, we're coming up. So this is from the Ashtaka about Lord Chaitanya. Even low-born sinful souls entrapped in Kali's age, suffering unnumbered pains that no one can assuage, are easily delivered when you kindly seek them out and flood them with your splendid mercy, making bhakti sprout. And so with heart rejoicing at your mercy's endless store, I take full shelter of your lotus feet and then implore, O Lord Chaitanya, Sri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Hare Krishna. So, again, just to emphasize, this Friday, if you can come in the evening, it's Nityananda's appearance day. It's always a very ecstatic festival. And I'm hoping to be able to do my Nityananda Ashtaka. I'll have a slideshow and everything, everyone can join. And it has this one line. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.